Wake and Take, Thursday morning. What's up, y'all? How's everybody doing? Jason Elwine is in the chat, the usual host of this show. Jason, what's up? Good to see you in chat. Everybody go say happy birthday to Jason if you haven't already. It was his birthday, I believe, 2 days ago. Happy birthday, Jason. Hope you're doing well. Harry Snowman in the chat. Always good to see you. Anthony in the chat. Keep your eyes on the road. Ahaan's got this. I probably do, but last time I was hosting Wake and Take instead of Jason, fell off the rails a little bit and got, I don't know, show went 20 minutes longer than usual, but we're here. Chef says good morning. Good morning. Corey says in Ahaan we trust. Thank you. It's the first time anybody's ever said that. Harry Snowman. Go Jen. Good morning. Dakota says what's up. All City. Wash hands, which I've already done. And shout out Max for the super sticker. Welcome to Wake and Take. Usually you see Jason Elwine and his beautiful face on the screen. Today you're going to have to deal with me. And it's fun. We're going to make it work. We're going to talk some Thursday Night Football Week 7. Reason I was a couple minutes late was right before I was about to go live. I saw the tweet that Trevor Lawrence is going to be a game time decision for tonight. And if he doesn't go, CJ Beathard is going to start. So I opened up a CJ Beathard tab and my laptop jammed. It's always a good omen. So we're here now. Shout out Harry Snowman, always a good friend of the program, and you're going to be great at hunt. I appreciate you. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about NFL trade rumors, trade deadlines a couple weeks out. We're going to talk about what's happened so far, which is, spoiler alert, basically nothing. And then we're just going to, talk some of the takes that we're passionate about and anything you guys want to talk about in chat as usual. And then we will get into some Thursday Night Football and then Week 7 action. But you know me, and you know how we run the program around here. We're gonna take care of whatever the chat wants to talk about. First up, Max says, would you still like to start the Jacksonville defense if Lawrence is out? Do you mean the Saints defense? Well, regardless, I'm starting both defenses tonight, and we'll talk more about Thursday Night Football. But this has potential to be very ugly. Even if Trevor Lawrence is starting, I want to play the Saints defense tonight. Even regardless of whether Jamal Williams is having a huge role or not tonight, I want the Jacksonville defense just for that turnover potential surrounding Derek Carr, and the fact that the Jacksonville pass rush has actually been kind of up and down, but they have some upside. So I actually like both defenses tonight, and we'll get into why shortly. Anthony, what's up? Appreciate the kind words. If tonight is ugly, are both kickers still in play for degenerates? Absolutely. So for those of you who are not too familiar with me, so I work with betting at Player Profiler. We do bet openly content, articles and stuff. And I'm the host of the Pick and Power Hour with Trevor Tipton at FFCU later. And yesterday, we do a Wednesday show, we do a Friday show, and yesterday we talked about our favorite plays for Thursday Night Football. And my pick, Brandon McManus, over 1.5 field goals made, just to give you a sense of how ugly this game might be. Yes, I like both kickers today. Jamal Williams activated from IR. Bye-bye, Kendre Miller. Very sad. For now, bye-bye, Kendre Miller. And hello, Jamal Williams. And speaking of Jamal Williams, just feels like I need to start off the show. Just top of the show, I need to acknowledge some of the things that have happened through the first 6 weeks, just in general, to get things just off my chest. First off, speaking of Jamal Williams, shout out David Montgomery, friend of the program. Just I have no idea if my laptop just jammed again and my screen froze, but I'm going to give it a few seconds to sink in. But I'm just going to get through this agenda real quick. Shout out David Montgomery, friend of the program, Player Profiler. Everybody here was right about him. Solid football player that gets on this elite situation in Detroit and balls out. Somebody give me a signal if my screen has frozen. Uh, feels like last time when I hosted Wake and Take, everything was fine and there were no technical difficulties at the very least. That might be changing this week. We will see. Give it just a few seconds to settle in. Are we back? Screen is good here. Fantastic. Okay, and now my laptop is on jam. We're back. Anyway, shout out David Montgomery, friend of the program. For some reason, his Vegas line for the season for rushing touchdowns was 6.5. He's at 6. So rest up, King. We need you for one more. So shout out to him. Want to mention just outright, a lot of us were bamboozled by the New York Giants. Can we all agree that Darren Waller is a fraud? And if not, then we can talk more about it. If we can all agree and move on, good, right? Okay, Darren Waller is a fraud. He's been getting the volume, just has not gotten the production because he's not making the contested catches. He's not getting open. So what is Bro doing out there? And they tried to go to him in the end zone with Tyrod Taylor last time. You can argue a little bit of a DPI there. But the fact of the matter is the Giants roster is not good. And I'm not too happy with what we've seen from Darren Waller so far. Tight end finishes of 18, then 4, then 25, 26, 7, tight end 13. And this is a guy that you drafted for the top 3 upside. Waller got stolen right in front of me. If drafts couldn't be happier. I was the guy that, I would be that guy in the draft room that would steal Waller from you because I would take him maybe a couple of spots ahead of ADP. So that was one of my big L's of the offseason. Just got to acknowledge that. More takes. The Browns defense is the best in the NFL. And if there are 49ers fans in the chat, my co-host on the Pick 'em Power Hour is a 49ers fan. And he seems to be on the same page with me on this one. The 49ers roster is deep, from top to bottom. But the Browns defense, just the defense, could be the best in the NFL. They've had a 97th percentile or better defensive success rate in 4 of their 5 games. And that just means defensive success rate is just or a defensive success is a play where the offense does not put together a positive EPA play. So the Browns defense, number 1 in the NFL. I'll stand by that. They rank number 1 in pressure rate, number 7 in pass rush win rate, but number 1 in run stop win rate as well. Browns and Jets defense are both overcoming bad QB play to get wins. I want to, since this was brought up, I want to mention that there were a few people at this company, including myself, and probably led by me, that was on the anti-Jets train this offseason. And I want to clarify that, if you read my article this offseason about season-long bets, we had the Jets on under 9.5 wins. And if you read that, I gave the utmost respect to that Jets defense, right? And I said they were top 5 last year. They're going to be top 5 again. But even with top 5 defensive production, I don't see them winning 10 games with Aaron Rodgers, given how subpar efficiency-wise he was. And if you look at metrics that don't have to do with the weapons he had, he was subpar without Devontae Adams, right? In his first season without Devontae Adams. And obviously Garrett Wilson was going to help with that. But my other take was this this Jets pass catching room is not that good. Outside of Garrett Wilson, it's uninspiring. Alan Lazard cannot separate. Mecole Hardman, who we'll touch on in just a bit, is not good. Spoiler, I gave you all the spoiler this offseason. Mecole Hardman was not good. Randall Cobb is 50 years old. Don't quote me on that, but that outside of Garrett Wilson, what does that Jets pass catching room have to offer? I warned you that the defense is going to have to carry this team. And Zach Wilson has been not the worst, right? He's been slightly better than expected the last couple of weeks. And the Jets defense has been playing out of their mind. And I mentioned in my article, they're going to win at least 7, maybe 8, maybe even 9 games just on the back of that defense, but I don't see them winning 10. And it's going to be a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda with Aaron Rodgers. If he was healthy, the Jets would have won 10 games. They would have been Super Bowl contenders. It's going to be a shame that we're not going to see Aaron Rodgers fully healthy for a season, because we're going to have to live with this coulda, woulda, shoulda. And I do not accept the fact that they would have won 10 games with Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to win 10 games now. They're not going to win 10 games no matter when Aaron Rodgers gets back. I'm going to stand by that. And I'm sorry if you're a Jets fan. It's not happening. Do you like Browns over Cowboys rest of season? I assume this is talking about fantasy defense. And yes, I will take the Browns fantasy defense over the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys have potential to give up a lot of points to some very good offenses. With Trayvon Diggs out, and the Browns pass rush is just, their roster was built to be the best defense in the NFL. And it's something I'm not surprised by. So I will take the Browns defense rest of season over the Cowboys rest of season. It's hard to rag on the Jets after they lost Rodgers. No one saw him getting injured on the first. We're done talking about the Jets, because there's going to be a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda, and I'm just not accepting the fact that Rodgers was going to, make this team a Super Bowl contender, especially because, like Daniel says, pushing 40. Recent trade discussion in the league: Kareem Hunt and Rashid Shaheed for T. Higgins. Redraft. Is that a terrible offer? I do not see Kareem Hunt having the type of role that's sustainable for a full season that I guess we got from him last week. And it wasn't even that he had a big role. It's because he found the end zone. I do like Rashid Shaheed, and we'll talk about him in the context of Thursday Night Football. Rashid Shaheed was perhaps, I feel pretty confident in saying that he was my top exposure wide receiver in best ball drafts this offseason outside of the first 5 rounds. But yeah, going back to Kareem Hunt, he got 71 yards last week with a touchdown, RB12 on the week. That's cute and all, but this Browns offense is not going to be great even when Deshaun Watson comes back. So I, as someone who hasn't been as high on Bengals receivers, pretty much the entire season, I'm still taking the Higgins side of this. I pretty much see this as Shaheed and someone with not a lot of upside for Higgins. So I like the Higgins side of this. Thoughts on Jerome Ford in Dynasty? What happens when Chubb gets back next year? Asks Paul. Jerome Ford is a very interesting scenario. So obviously we like him this year. He's going to get a ton of volume, especially because I'm not sold on Kareem Hunt. There's something to be said that Jerome Ford was a 5th-round pick, and of course, draft capital doesn't mean anything, or draft capital doesn't mean everything, but it's going to mean a little bit. You look at his athletic profile, and it's fine. A speed guy, 87th percentile, 40 speed. He was efficient in college, but not someone that was a huge pass catcher in college. A decent dominator. Not a lot of burst. I feel like this is the time to sell high on Jerome Ford, and if that sounds, very, kind of like, you might say it sounds corny. You might say it sounds like kind of textbook, like sell high on the guy that's having to start because of an injury, but it just is what it is. I don't see the upside from Jerome Ford that you would see with a lot of other running backs that aren't even playing right now, such as a Kendre Miller, right? Like you see more upside with Kendre Miller. So I feel like Jerome Ford, this is the time to sell. Toronto Dave, what's up? Good to see you in chat. Says the need for Shaheed. I'm going to use that. Would you swap Laporta for Andrews or hold Laporta? Says Max. I'm going to open up the seasonal rankings. Probably should have done that before the show. Personally, I was one of the highest people on. That sounds crazy. Do not clip that. I was one of the people highest on Sam Laporta entering this offseason. I said he was going to be the exception to the don't draft rookie tight ends mantra, so to speak. I would take Sam Laporta rest of season over Mark Andrews. I think it's close, maybe by even one spot. And if you head over to playerprofiler.com and you look at the half PPR rest of season rankings at tight end, Billy and Dario, who are analytics gurus, disagree with me on this. Mark Andrews is 2 spots higher, but I think like it has been said in chat, Andrews and Laporta are very close. I feel like you could get consensus to agree with you that Andrews is slightly ahead of Laporta. So if you could somehow swap, um, if you were on the Andrews side and you could get Laporta plus a high upside second piece, maybe like a handcuff running back with huge upside, or a wide receiver too, you know, I would make that trade. But if you have Laporta, hold, because I don't think the consensus is going to agree with you that Mark Andrews is going to be worse than Laporta rest of season. Daniel says Ridley tonight or wait with Lockett, Josh Downs, or Deontay Johnson still playing ETN though, and I guess we're kind of heading into the Thursday night football preview at this point. So Ridley tonight scares me. I'll say this. I know it's up to you if you guys want me to talk about everything Thursday night football in one go or not. Ridley tonight scares me. Lockett does not. I absolutely love Tyler Lockett. This this weekend in week 7. And if the question is Ridley tonight or wait with Lockett Downs or Deontay Johnson, if that means that if you don't play Ridley tonight, you'd have to play all three of those, I would still play Ridley because I'm not, Josh Downs, but we love Josh Downs. Good player, has been getting, the opportunities lately. If D Johnson really means Deontay Johnson, I'm not convinced that he's going to, be 100% this weekend. I'm still playing Ridley and then waiting to see more on Deontay Johnson, this weekend. And if he goes off on our benches, I will be fine with that. If that's what it means, but I just can't pass up on the upside of Calvin Ridley as the clear number one on an offense that is trying to pass the ball. Just as simple as that. So I'm still starting Ridley tonight. Do I feel good about it? No. Would y'all rather have through the bye Cuba or Tajay Spears? Can't have both with injuries to Montgomery and Roschon. So the question is Cuba Hubbard or Tajay Spears, and it's a great transition into perhaps the thumbnail of this episode, which is related to the Tennessee Titans. And on this matter specifically, I will take Chuba Hubbard. The chance that Derrick Henry just starts getting used, more than he wants to use them or they want to use him, they could put Derrick Henry's volume through the roof and send him into retirement, so to speak. And hopefully that didn't come off the wrong way, but they could grind him into the ground going forward. So for that reason, because Derrick Henry is still getting all the red zone usage, even with the emergence of Tajay Spears, I'll take Chuba Hubbard there. Anthony says start your studs. Not always, but in this case, it's tricky. But I'm gonna take the pill and start Calvin Ridley tonight. More takeaways before we get into the main course of action. How about Matthew Stafford? Matthew Stafford is someone that I owe an apology to. Speaking of L's, I wouldn't say this was necessarily a huge L on my part to say that the Rams were not going to be great this season. But if you've seen some of my content, you saw that when Cooper Kupp got hurt, I shipped him off for middle-ish players, and that was an L because I thought that the Rams would have a mediocre offense and a really bad defense. In a sense, I owe more of an apology to Sean McVay, but I thought they would be bad on defense, mediocre on offense because Matthew Stafford is aging. He's taken so many hits in his career. I thought this would be a below-average team, and for that reason, I thought Cooper Kupp was not going to be forced to come back. He wouldn't be back on time. I didn't have a doubt that when he came back, he would be good. I had a doubt that he would actually come back, which was, in hindsight, ridiculous. He has 266 yards in 2 games. It feels like the Patriots don't have 266 yards on offense the entire season. As a Patriots fan, that's how it feels. But my pain aside, Cooper Kupp is all the way back. Puka Nacua still earning his volume because he is good at football. But the difference between Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua is that Cooper Kupp is elite enough as an athlete to draw those end zone targets. When the Rams have nothing in their bag offensively, if they run out of tricks, they can always just spam the ball to Cooper Kupp in the red zone. But the combination of Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and the other sort of role players like a Tyler Higbee and the Tutu Atwells of the world. Matthew Stafford is a viable quarterback rest of season. And I also want to address that Zach Evans, the supposed number one running back on the Rams for now. He ranked outside the top 15 in this year's class by the Breakout Finder model. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Breakout Finder model, ahead of drafts, next off season, you can just go download the Breakout Finder app on the App Store, and it's $5. Basically the price of a cup of coffee, $5, and you get running back and a wide receiver prospect. It's a model that tells you sort of how good they are, how likely they are to be a game changer in fantasy football. And Zach Evans ranked outside of the top 15 in his own class, this year's class, because he wasn't a high draft capital guy. He was a good, not phenomenal athlete. Nothing about Zach Evans pops off the pages. Yeah, this guy can lead a backfield for half a season and be that guy. So to add to all of that, oh, by the way, the Rams just signed Darrell Henderson, an old friend of the program, old friend of the Rams program. And remember when C.J. Anderson was a top 7 fantasy running back in week 16 and 17 of 2018? That could be Darrell Henderson. And I see people blowing 50% of fab sometimes on Zach Evans. And may I suggest you rethink how you approach fab if that's what you're doing. Billy says he had a solid breakout rating prior to the draft capital update, I think. He had a decent breakout rate. So I was doing some breakout finder content. I believe he was barely inside the top 10. And yes, the draft capital hurt him. But I still think he was below, a lot of the other guys, he was below Kendra Miller, he's below Tajay Spears. Like, this guy does not pop off the page as a talent that could be one of those guys, if that makes sense. Gross starts at question: would you rather start Elijah Moore, probably 10 targets for 11 yards, or Jameson Williams, probably 2 targets for 83 yards, PPR? That is indeed a gross question. And I feel like Jameson Williams, we've had this is Jameson Williams a bust discussion, led by the Podfather on Player Profiler, many a time. I'm taking Elijah Moore this weekend. He's facing a Colts defense that just hasn't been, inspiring in any department, really. They've been slightly better than I anticipated given their roster, but they've still not been great. Whereas the Detroit Lions have to contend with the Baltimore Ravens, and the Baltimore Ravens are always going to have this pedigree of being a good defense, even though they haven't been putting up the elite stats defensively this year, and they haven't really the last couple of years, as much as sort of peak Ravens defense, which is fine. But like you said, I feel like Jameson Williams is very dependent on that one bomb. He's not a guy that's going to earn usage, and if you get 7 targets out of Elijah Moore, it feels like he's going to outscore Jameson Williams. I'll take Elijah Moore. Someone says, would you sell Herbert for Alvin Kamara or target another RB? I have Purdy as well and have Bijan, Gibbs, Roschon, and A-Chain on IR. A-Chain on IR with a couple of these guys stashed and a 4-2 record. Sounds like you're in one QB, in which case, yes, I would sell Herbert for Alvin Kamara. But if you are looking to target another RB as well, maybe get someone higher in the seasonal rankings than Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams is going to be that guy, not to the extent that he was with the Detroit Lions with that goal line work and that elite offensive line. But Jamal Williams is going to be that guy that steals a lot of the goal line touches from Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara has aged, and I'm not saying he's washed, but Jamal Williams is going to steal some of that work. Jalen Warren or Zach Evans this week? Absolutely gross. For the touchdown upside, they're facing each other. For the touchdown upside, I will take Jalen Warren here. because I think there's a lot fewer mouths to compete with, if that's even a reasonable phrase. I'll take Jalen Warren. What do you think of Gaskins to the Rams? Better choice than the other RBs. Are you saying that? Oh, are you saying to pick up Miles Gaskin because he's on the Rams now? Um, so here's the thing with the Rams. It's John McVay. If you're unfamiliar, he's going to be led by workhorse, right? He's got once you're through one quarter of a Rams game, you're going to know that dude is getting the ball the rest of the way, essentially, right? And last year we dealt with that with Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers. And on Underdog, there's a cool feature, where you can pick pick'ems for over unders, but you can also pick, something called rivals, where you pick which of two players is going to get more, and you don't care what production they get as long as one gets more than the other. And something that was a wagon for me last year was Darrell Henderson to have more production than Cam Akers, because regardless of game script, it's just like, yeah, I'm guessing that he's going to be the guy. And Miles Gaskin is a guy that I've pushed a lot in the past, because his peripherals not bad. But I'm going to say this: if he couldn't beat out Jeff Wilson in Miami in an offense where running backs are going to thrive, the hope is kind of fading for him. So I'm not necessarily. I'm for all intents and purposes off the Gaskins trade. And I will take Zach Evans over him rest of the way. And I also think Darrell Henderson, if you're in a deep league and Darrell Henderson is sitting on the waiver wire, go pick him up. Would you start Gibbs and Craig Reynolds together, or just Gibbs and a guy like Rashee Rice? I would. Well, this week Craig Reynolds is hurt, which brings me to an excellent segue. That there's a guy who was fantastic in college, just an absolute dog. He was undrafted. I was very surprised that he went undrafted. He was an undrafted running back, which is why you don't hear about him a lot in the fantasy world. But in his last season in college, he played 12 games. He had 320 carries, almost 1,700 rushing yards, 20 touchdowns. And he's the most healthy running back in the Detroit Lions organization right now, and his name is Mohamed Ibrahim. There we go. Anthony says Ibrahim. Mohamed Ibrahim is going to be that guy that I'm going to say it right now. Mohamed Ibrahim gets called up from the practice squad. He scores a touchdown this week, and half of my Twitter timeline goes, who? Not remembering that he was an absolute dog in college. Love Mo Ibrahim, and I hope he gets a touchdown this week. McVay and Shanahan are the same with RB rooms outside of CMC. In a sense, McVay really loves that workhorse situation. But I feel like we need to get in the meat of the program very soon. So I'm gonna get into the meat of the program, which is NFL trade rumors. So what's happened so far? Basically nothing. Not trade, but Julio Jones signed a 1-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not going to say I'm moved by this. Julio Jones, not even close to the player he once was. But I will say this. There has been one quote-unquote significant trade that has happened. And it happened yesterday. It was Mecole Hardman to the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm seeing on my timeline that Mecole Hardman to the Chiefs is significant, but Julio Jones to the Eagles is not. Like, we need to be so much better. Like, we, as a community, as a fantasy football community, as NFL fans, as just a group of sports lovers, we need to be so much better as a group than saying that Mecole Hardman to the Chiefs moves us, but Julio Jones doesn't. Because if I had to pick one of those moves that actually moves me a little bit, it's Julio Jones to the Eagles. Because Quez Watkins was not it as the wide receiver 3 on the Eagles. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. That's still the big 3 in Philadelphia, alongside that run game, which we obviously know with the Eagles, that's their MO. They want to run the football. When they have leads, they're going to give DeAndre Swift, the workhorse load. They're going to give him, the bell cow role. And Julio Jones, he's probably not going to be very relevant in many fantasy football weeks, but could I see him sneak into the end zone a couple weeks? Is he a very deep sort of like a 16-teamer best ball option? Absolutely. Quez Watkins is not good at football, and they, as an organization, the Eagles, have realized this, and as a desperation move, they say, you know what, it can't hurt us to bring in this experience into the room and maybe use him a little bit if he's still got some left in the tank. Nicole Hardman is not good. Like, we need to be so much better. Hardman was putting up decent fantasy numbers in his last few games with KC. So let's take a look, right? So Nicole Hardman, his last time with Kansas City, his was last year, right? And he was playing alongside, kind of similar to the same core as what it is right now. Ahead of him in the depth chart, Kadarius Toney, who is pretty much has the same role as who had the same role as he has now, which is please try to get open and secure a football, with your two gloves. Every once in a while. And when he doesn't, score a touchdown, he's kind of irrelevant. Mecole Hardman was playing behind him, alongside, so to speak, Sky Moore, who was irrelevant last year, looking like irrelevant this year. And playing behind Travis Kelce, obviously, and also playing behind Juju Smith-Schuster, who is more of a yak guy last year and not, a shell of himself from last year. Than his prime, right? Mecole Hardman, his fantasy football finishes on the season, wide receiver 42, 61, 113, 101, 32, 28, and here comes the hot stretch, wide receiver 3 in week 7 against San Francisco when he found the end zone, and wide receiver 6 in week 9 against the Tennessee Titans when he found the end zone. And by the way, the wide receiver 28 week was a week where he found the end zone. So this guy is not someone that's going to earn volume. Does he have some touchdown upside with how shorthanded the Chiefs wide receivers are, this year? I guess, but this is not someone I will start pretty much any week. If you're in unless you're in a best ball league, I have no interest in Mecole Hardman the rest of the season. Rashee Rice is good at football. And they will feed Isaiah Pacheco. They will feed Travis Kelce, obviously. And they'll feed Rashee Rice because they've started to realize that Rashee Rice is going to be the guy that makes plays for you. And by the way, Mecole Hardman's still going to be behind in the depth chart, behind Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who is not good at football. Mecole Hardman does not inspire me. We have to be so much better than saying this is a needle mover. And this is for a wide receiver room in Kansas City that is not good. And I'll touch upon this at the end of the show as well. Neither moves the dial. Hardman replaces Richie James, who is going to be good for a clutch catch per game before he gets hurt. Couldn't have said it better myself. Chiefs are just getting bodies for the playoffs, teaching young guys what they want. Hardman have 10 catches rest of the season worth value. Pretty much. The Chiefs fan. Wait, are you a Chiefs fan? Did I just assume that? I think I just assumed that from the colors of your logo. Anyway, one more agenda item, about the trading block for the NFL is just the wide list of names that are potentially on the move and how few of them I see actually getting moved. Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow from the Raiders theoretically on the move. Do I think the Raiders would be smart to ship off their guys because I think their last 2 wins were 2 of the most fraudulent wins of the NFL season, and the Raiders are not actually that good? Yeah, I think the Raiders should trade Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow. Do I think they will? I'm not sure what to make of that organization. I don't know. Chef says Bears fan. Oh, Bears fan. If you're into playerprofiler.com/articles, if you're into betting, you might want to read my article that's coming out today at 4 p.m. Eastern time for today's, this Sunday's best bets. I am headed to the Bears-Raiders game, and I may have just spoiled with what I just said, what side I'm on there. But this Tyson Bagent versus Brian Hoyer battle is going to be one for the ages. And I can't believe that's a sentence I said in 2023, but here we are. More trade guys. Jerry Jeudy, Steve Smith may have ended his career with what he said, but I think Jerry Jeudy is just, we know who he is by now. He's going to be someone that's above replacement, but barely, right? He could be the wide receiver 3 for a team. I mentioned earlier that the Chiefs wide receiver room is not good, and Mecole Hardman is not an upgrade, like, at all. And I think something that I think is realistically not going to happen. But if the Chiefs were had any shame with what their wide receiver room is doing right now, just take a look at this. The Chiefs wide receiver room was already subpar, and Justin Watson was their second best receiver, according to receiving grade by PFF. Justin Watson was actually getting open downfield a couple of times per game, giving Patrick Mahomes a window to make a deep pass, get me a 40-yard catch to open up a drive, to get things going. Justin Watson was filling in that deep threat kind of I'll catch a bomb or two in a game role. And that was their second best wide receiver. And, Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, those are the guys. And after that, it looks bleak when Justin Watson is your second best wide receiver. If the Chiefs don't pick up their phone, and call teams asking for their good wide receivers, right? Good is the key here, not Mecole Hardman. Like, we got to. I really hope for Patrick Mahomes' sake, Mecole Hardman is not the answer according to the organization. If they're smart, they're going to call the Broncos and say, yeah, it's within division, but what's going to be the cost on Jerry Jeudy? Jerry Jeudy is someone that would move the needle for the Kansas City Chiefs because it's another capable wide receiver that could win some routes. Same goes for Courtland Sutton, but I don't think they're going to trade Courtland Sutton to the Chiefs. And then with other teams, more wide receivers that could be up for grabs. The Patriots are not going anywhere. How about call the Patriots and ask them, is Kendrick Bourne, available to be, somewhat of a slot guy? Can we get old friend Juju Smith-Schuster back on the team? And I think Juju is not very good anymore, but is he better than Marquez Valdes-Scantling? Yeah, probably. Call the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know what's going on there with Kyler Murray, but, is Marquise Brown available? Is Darnell Mooney available, Chicago? Because Darnell Mooney is better than what the Bears have, made him out to be. Darnell Mooney would be the third best wide receiver at worst. Actually, second best wide receiver. I consider Kelce as a receiver. Probably the second best wide receiver, right after Kelce and Rashee Rice. Darnell Mooney would help the Chiefs. Call these people. Call the Tennessee Titans and ask for DeAndre Hopkins. Someone says, I thought the Chiefs would have tried to buy low and Claypool like Miami did. Absolutely. And Miami is, kind of knows what they are on offense. They want to get these speed guys to help Tua Tagovailoa. And I think that Chase Claypool, move was a phenomenal buy low. Its definition of buy low. This is someone that could be a red zone target. He could be something. So the Kansas City Chiefs need to do something like that. Is Roschon a green light if he plays? I need an RB2. Dylan, Warren, Edwards, Justice Hill also have Jamal Williams sitting on waivers. First off, I think Jamal Williams needs to be owned. Do I start him today? No. Is A.J. Dillon good at football? No. Did the Packers add to their running back room by signing James Robinson? And do I think James Robinson might actually be better than A.J. Dillon? Yes. So, no, I'm not excited about A.J. Dillon. No, I'm not excited about starting Jamal Williams today. I think Warren is a fine upside play, more so than the trying to guess which Ravens running back possibly gets a touchdown. Is Roschon a green light if he plays? Yes, but also I'm not of the belief that he's going to be 100%, and they could somewhat manage their rookie running back. If Roschon is, if we get reports that he's 100%, I'm starting Roschon of anybody on this list. But other than that, I'm starting Jalen Warren. Jahmyr Gibbs or Roschon at both start. Jahmyr Gibbs, just for the upside in that Detroit offense, the pass catching presumably. And presumably Jahmyr Gibbs is going to play. And Mohamed Ibrahim might be the one that steals the touchdown. But I'm still starting Jahmyr Gibbs. Trade, redraft DK and Kittle for Andrews. That means DK Metcalf. Absolutely not. No, DK Metcalf's upside has not been seen yet. We need Roschon to practice today. Absolutely. And speaking of the Tennessee Titans, I feel like I need to get to the last main item of the show, which is the Tennessee Titans. And it would be a disservice to all of you if I went through the show without properly addressing the thumbnail of this episode. In the meanwhile, someone says, does this mean Aaron Jones' injury is more serious? I'll say this. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury since last year. He was dealing with a hamstring injury this year. He re-aggravated it in that game against Chicago. he got a bye week and he's still not, fully healthy. It's concerning. I think it's serious. I think the Ravens beat the Lions this weekend. Thoughts? They're favorites. I feel like this. Do the Ravens deserve to be a full field goal favorites against the Lions? Maybe not. It's probably going to be the best game of the slate. But Baltimore at home, John Harbaugh is good against the spread, and he's favored in this one. So I could see the Ravens smacking down the Detroit Lions, finally humbling them. But also the Detroit Lions offense is just good. I think it's time to accept that Jared Goff might be good, guys. Just, you don't want to say it, but I want to say it. Jared Goff is good. Trade Kamara, Sutton, Moss for James Cook, Justin Herbert, T. Higgins, and Kirk. One quarterback redraft off the dome. So you're saying you're going to ship off Kamara, Sutton, and Moss for James Cook. So I'm not a believer in James Cook. I've never been. I was all this offseason, I was completely on the Damian Harris and Latavius Murray are both going to steal goal line touches from James Cook because James Cook is not that guy, buddy. But I would still do this trade. Jonathan Taylor is going to continue getting more of the workload for the Colts because money talks. Alvin Kamara is going to get some of that work stolen from Jamal Williams. James Cook, has upside just because he has been a decent runner this season, and it's a good offense. But yes, I would make that trade. I think the upside, and I would assume Kirk means Christian Kirk here. Love Christian Kirk, have loved Christian Kirk all offseason. I think he could possibly be Christian Kirk, even more than T. Higgins, could be the best player in this package. So I like that trade. So we're down to business. We're going to have to address this thumbnail, right? So the Tennessee Titans, let's have a little conversation about the Tennessee Titans. And if there are any Tennessee Titans fans in the chat, please show yourself because I want to talk directly to you, and I have nothing against Tennessee Titans fans. I have nothing against Mike Vrabel because actually I love Mike Vrabel. I think he's possibly the strength of this team. Let's talk about the Tennessee Titans. So this offseason, I made a tweet, innocent, harmless tweet, that the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to win the division, the AFC South. And I said, you look at this division, right? Obviously, the Colts and the Texans. I kind of I kind of brushed over the fact that they were in a rebuild and they probably weren't going to be serious division contenders this season. And so you look at the Jags and you look at the Titans, and the Jags are favorites in the division. And basically my point was I don't see a way in which the Jags lose the division to the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are always somewhat of a sleeper just because Mike Vrabel is good. He finds ways to win games. People, love to pretend that running backs matter to the extent that, if you have a mediocre quarterback, mediocre pass catching room, mediocre defense, but you have Derrick Henry, somehow you're a contender. I was thrilled to fade the Tennessee Titans when they faced the Bengals in the playoffs a few years ago. But this is about this season. This is about going forward, the Tennessee Titans and their future. And something that Anand Nanduri mentioned on the decision point with the Podfather this offseason was the Tennessee Titans need to figure out who they are. They need to figure out, are we an organization that kind of pretends to be good every single season, goes into the season with this mediocre throughout the roster, mediocre group of players, and put the ball in the court of Mike Vrabel and say, "Lead us, King"? Are they just going to accept the fact that this team is not a serious title contender with their core? They need to go and rebuild. They need to figure out what their future quarterback is. They need to figure out how they're going to build a pass catching room that could complement that quarterback. And do we need to rebuild this defense? And are we going to go in Mike Vrabel's office and tell him, yeah, this is our game plan, and do you want to stick with us through this rebuild or not? Are they going to be upfront about this, or are they going to continue pretending like there's some serious contender and there's some big shots in the AFC? Because the Tennessee Titans, their biggest accomplishment, raise the banner, their biggest accomplishment was they eliminated Tom Brady when he was on the Patriots. Okay, raise the banner. After that, you got a 1 seed. I'm happy for you. Now what? What is the future of the Tennessee Titans organization? And I had Titans fans Come at me all off season long. I had beat reporters retweet me saying that I'm delusional to think that the Jags are in a much better position to contend for a title as soon as this year with that offensive core than the Tennessee Titans. And I ask you, what did you see in this roster? What did you see out of the name Ryan Tannehill? What did you see out of a pass catching room with an uncertain Treylon Burks in his health, a past his prime DeAndre Hopkins that's still, granted, not bad at football? What did you see out of Nick Westbrook-Ikine? What did you see out of Derrick Henry in his 30s? What did you see out of this pass funnel defense that made you think this team, yeah, this is it? I want to ask you what you see, and I want to go back to that tweet that I made that the Jags are a clear class apart in this AFC South, and I want to apologize to the Houston Texans because I was a big believer in C.J. Stroud, and the fact that I didn't include the Houston Texans in this conversation as the team that could maybe pull off an upset and win this division, I'm sorry. And Anthony Richardson, I'm sorry that I thought you weren't going to be good as a rookie, and he's hurt for the year, and I think that essentially puts the Colts out of division contention. But I'm sorry primarily to the Houston Texans and DeMeco Ryans because Texans fans, you should be upset at me for not including you in the division discussion, not the Titans. You're 2-4. Your mediocre quarterback, below average quarterback, Ryan Tannehill is out of the picture now. The direction for this franchise should be stop with the malpractice of sunk cost fallacy. Stop starting Malik Willis. Stop putting him in a game where he's going to take 8 sacks in a span of 2 possessions. Stop it. Get some help. And start Will Levis. See what you have. Why did you draft Will Levis, a guy that some people were saying was going to be a top 5 draft pick? Why did you draft him at the 202 if you're going to start Malik Willis? Malik Willis is not good at football. He's not a starting quarterback in this league. Figure it the hell out. Will Levis, number 3 in his class in athleticism score at quarterback, 54th percentile college yards per attempt. Is he the next coming of Patrick Mahomes? Absolutely not. Do we think, his closest comp on player profiler is Jay Cutler. Could that be his ceiling? Sure. But he's got an 88th percentile burst score. This guy's a good athlete. He has a good arm. And can he piece it all together as a quarterback and make reads, etc.? You have to find out. And if you don't, I don't know what this organization is doing. Swallow the ego pill, put it aside, and figure out that the direction of the Tennessee Titans should be rebuild, and it starts with Will Levis. Figure it out. Going back to some of these questions in chat, Dynasty, Superflex, 10-man, and we have Higgins and 2 firsts for Stephon Diggs. I want to remind people that we have a tool on playerprofiler.com called the Trade Analyzer, and you could plug in players into the Trade Analyzer for your Dynasty League. You can enter the settings of your league, and you could put in this trade, such as Stephon Diggs, and I will actually screen share to answer this question. You could do something like this. Since this is not a calculation I want to make in my head, not being well informed, I'm going to let the gurus at Player Profiler and the people who set up this tool answer the question for me. 2 seconds, I assume you mean 24 seconds. Let's input this into the Trade Analyzer. And assuming this is, it's Superflex. I should have inputted that. And it sounds like the T. Higgins and 2 second-round picks is decided to go. There you go. Got a super chat here from Max. Which RB would you target with that Herbert trade? Could you remind me which Herbert trade, please? Trevor Lawrence or Matthew Stafford this week? Matthew Stafford by far. Not thrilled about Trevor Lawrence. And before we head off on the show, we'll talk just a couple minutes about Thursday Night Football. Stafford over T-Law since the Rams have to air it out. There you go. Pittsburgh Steelers secondary, by the way, not great. Thanks for the help. No problem, Jesse. Any advice on a trade? If I was to trade St. Brown and Hawkinson, would Gibbs, Laporta, and Flowers be, or should I hold both players? If this is redraft, I'm actually regardless. I'm keeping St. Brown and T.J. Hawkinson. St. Brown ceiling rest of the season, wide receiver 1. T.J. Hawkinson ceiling rest of the season, tight end 2. I am keeping St. Brown and T.J. Hawkinson. The critics all disappear when they're wrong. Spot on. If Levis is mediocre, it would be better than Tannehill. Absolutely. And if I feel like the floor for Will Levis feels like a Zach Wilson floor, as in like there is a chance he's a turnover machine and he just doesn't know what he's doing right away, which is fine. Finding out is better than pretend or putting your fans in delusion that this organization knows what it's doing, which it doesn't right now. Caught CJ Stroud for 20% fab in a super flex this morning. Why is CJ Stroud on your waiver wire in a super flex league? Tell your league mates to figure it out after you win this league. Jesus Christ. I'm screwed at quarterback. Start Carr, Mayfield, or Russell Wilson. I don't think you're screwed at quarterback because I think those options are decent this week. I'm starting Baker Mayfield this week. Am I right that he's facing the Falcons? Yes, I am. Baker Mayfield. As always, we appreciate the insurance or reassurance. No problem. Titans sell. Here's an idea from Chef. Titans sell DeAndre Hopkins, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill. What do they even get? Hopkins 4th, Henry 4th, Tannehill 6th. If the Titans can somehow ship off DeAndre Hopkins, a broken Derrick Henry, and a finished Ryan Tannehill, and get 3 draft picks out of it, my hat's off to them for starting to figure it out. Final thing on the agenda, and we kind of touched on Thursday Night Football a little bit, but I want to wrap the show up in a couple minutes so we can get y'all on out of here and back to work/lunch break for some of you. Thursday Night Football tonight. So Juwan Johnson is out. Zay Jones is out. Jacksonville cornerback Tyson Campbell is out. Left guard Walker Little is out. Defensive tackle Devon Hamilton is out. Jamal Williams probably going to return from the IR. Trevor Lawrence, if he plays, is through some pain, but he's a game-time decision. We have no idea what C.J. Beathard wants to do. He's taken a few offensive snaps this season. He's only had 2 passes, and it was in a 37-17 blowout. Can't read much into it. Here's what I will say. Main agenda. The Saints are only 1.5-point favorites. The Vegas total is 39.5. What that means is you might see some really ugly play from the Saints offense because this Saints team should be beating a Jacksonville team if Trevor Lawrence is not 100%. Trevor Lawrence is 100%. The Jags can out-offense pretty much anybody. But the fact is he's not. The Saints secondary is good. Saints don't pass rush anybody, and they still manage to hold opponents to low scores because their secondary is good. Their run stop is good, which is why I'm scared of Travis Etienne this week. If there was ever a spot where Travis Etienne just completely busts and scores 8 points, this is the week. Because he's not going to, jump off the page efficiency-wise, because this season he hasn't been great efficiency-wise, outside of the top 40 in true yards per carry, outside of the top 20 in breakaway run rate. He's not going to light it up against the Saints' run defense. He's just not. He's going to be touchdown dependent. And then with the Vegas total at 39.5, are there going to be touchdowns in this game? I don't think so. I'm scared about him. I'm scared about Calvin Ridley. I'm scared about Alvin Kamara. Because Jamal Williams could come back and instantly take up some of that goal line work. We're going to have to see what the splits are like. It's not a game I'm willing to play to guess the Saints' backfield usage. Guys, you have to fire up. You have to start Christian Kirk. Well, you have to start Etienne and Ridley, first of all, if you're in a start-sit league. You have to start Christian Kirk because no matter who's at quarterback, he's been the guy that somewhat gets open in the middle of the field and picks up those PPR points. Evan Engram, his volume has been fantastic. You have to start these guys, and unless you're in a league where you have multiple great tight ends, Evan Engram, you have to start him for that red zone threat that he is. You have to start Chris Olave, and against this Jags defense, I feel like Chris Olave has to light it up. The Jags defense has been They allowed Michael Pittman to go off on them twice. No shame, Michael Pittman is an alpha. They allowed Tank Dell to have 145 yards, and they allowed Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis to simultaneously cook when they were coming from behind in London. But they allowed Sky Moore, who can't get open this season, to go off. Huge touchdown. They allowed Tank Dell, the rookie, to have his breakout game of 145 yards. They allowed Jonnu Smith to go off. This Jags secondary is not good, and they're hurt. Chris Olave sees the moment. You have to go off, and you have to start Chris Olave for that upside. But Michael Thomas has been getting red zone usage, and Derek Carr kind of force-feeding the ball to him. Rashid Shaheed, a big play guy. He could, knock off a couple of big plays, and you might be looking at 3 receptions for 80 yards for Rashid Shaheed when it's all said and done. Rashid Shaheed, a good best ball guy. But I feel like this is the type of game that could see maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns max, and it's going to come from one of them is going to come from a complete sleeper like a Jamal Agnew, who hasn't even been getting much usage. But with Zay Jones out, they're going to have to use Jamal Agnew a little bit. And the Jags haven't been going deep in their bag to use the second, the third, the fourth guy on their depth chart. But Jamal Agnew has been getting some usage. Foster Moreau is an interesting tight end guy with Juwan Johnson out. Obviously, Taysom Hill has been the guy, and Chef says Taysom Hill again. Taysom Hill was probably the answer, as ugly as it may sound, to who is the high upside saint tonight. Taysom Hill probably the answer. But if you're playing DFS, I wouldn't mind a shot at Foster Moreau, because Jimmy Graham has not been getting red zone usage. Foster Moreau, he's really only getting usage. He's been getting usage very seldom, but when he is, he's catching the football, playing for his hometown team, the Saints. Really good story, Foster Moreau playing football this year. I wouldn't mind some Foster Moreau in DFS only, but this is a game you have to start your studs, but you're not feeling great about it. And if you're in an 8-teamer, if you're in one of those leagues where you have like a top 12 upside guy on your bench, I wouldn't even mind benching Calvin Ridley. And that's how scared I am of Calvin Ridley today, especially if Trevor Lawrence cannot go. And that's my Thursday Night Football preview. Before we head on out of here and we end the show, let me know if you have any final questions about the Week 7 slate. Couple games I'm really looking forward to. Chargers, Chiefs. We talked about the Chiefs wide receiver not being good. You know what would be the wake-up call for the Chiefs? To pick up the phone and ask for some wide receivers. If the Chargers and Chiefs run a close game for a full 4 quarters, and Justin Herbert, who just choked on primetime, he has a get-right game, right? He missed Keenan Allen wide open a few times last week. He had a chance to tie the game, get in field goal range, and he threw a pick, throwing to Quentin Johnston. The wake-up call for the Chiefs would be to lose outright at Arrowhead, because Justin Herbert trots down the field with Keenan Allen and Joshua Palmer and Gerald Everett, and Patrick Mahomes tries to throw it to anybody other than Travis Kelce, and it's unsuccessful. That would be the wake-up call. And my final item on my show sheet for today just happens to be answering directly the question that Graphic 13 is asking, which is my personal game of the week would be the Packers versus the Broncos. Jordan Love is coming off his worst start of the season, where he had a 16.6 expected quarterback rating, a negative 16% completion percentage over expectation. He had a bye. And now Denver is the worst defense in the NFL. They rank number 32 in DVOA, bottom 2 against the pass, bottom 2 against the run. They've given up the most receiving yards, the highest yards per route run, the highest catch rate in the NFL, and they've given up the most touchdowns and the most yak. This Denver Broncos defense is the biggest disappointment on an NFL roster of the season. It is stunning. It is depressing to watch a defense that has guys like Justin Simmons, who was hurt for a little bit, but Patrick Surtain. It's depressing to watch a defense like this be this bad. But here's a take. And before I give that, shout out to Billy Sandwiches. Appreciate you, Graphic 13, for joining us on Wake and Take this morning. And I'll leave you with a take this week. Not only does bad football player Romeo Doubs put up a decent game, not only does Jaden Reed show what he's all about against this Denver Broncos defense, Christian Watson is a top 5 wide receiver this week, And your quarterback number 1, week 7, Jordan Love. That's what I'll leave you with. We appreciate you for joining Wake and Take, and we'll see you later.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.